Eyelanwo. Please stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. After months of intense campaigns and political intrigues, Ondo residents have chosen their governor for the next 4 years. Lucky Aiyedatiwa, APC governorship candidate and incumbent governor of Ondo State, has described his victory in the 2024 governorship election as a mandate to deliver improved governance and services to the people of the state. Governor Aiyedatiwa views his victory in the 2024 Ondo governorship election as a renewed call to deliver improved governance. Aiyedatiwa highlighted his comprehensive campaign across all local governments, promises to address grassroots needs and fulfill his campaign promises. With 508,963 total votes cast, Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa won the election with 366,781 votes, defeating PDP's Agbola Ajayi, who garnered 117,845 votes. The LP 2,692, Labour Party 1,162, while the Social Democratic Party 438. Meanwhile, the major opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, has described the governorship election as a sham. In a statement signed by the National Publicity Secretary of the party, Honorable Debo Olugwangwa, the PDP calls it the worst election conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Tonight, let's speak with Dr. Soji Eyelanwo. Good evening to you, Doctor. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening. It's a pleasure joining you.
So it's good to have you back on the program. Your party has won this election, which many have described as a landslide victory. But from every indication, you may have good things to say, but for the record, so what's your assessment of this just concluded election? How do you rate INEC's performance, the conduct of the candidates and the political parties?
I think I know INEC has done quite well. The election is largely peaceful, free and fair. I think the election is a reflection of the wish of the people of Ondo State. And in terms of the conduct of the aspirants, I think there's been friendliness. They've had good rapport between themselves. So I think all in all, it's been a good election that reflects the wish of the people.
So when you juxtapose the assessment of this election with how election observers assessed the Edo governorship election, and I think there is a lot of difference because for the Ondo election, observers and civil society organizations who were present on ground have given this process a pass mark. For Younger Africa, Tough Africa, and some others, including foreign observers, who have affirmed that the results of this governorship election as described, or as declared rather, by INEC accurately reflected the records from the ballot boxes at polling units. However, they say INEC must do more than what it has already done to protect the secrecy of the ballot and enforce its electoral guidelines. But I wonder how you react to low turnout of voters, which was about 28%. What do you think may have contributed to that?
I think I noticed that the turnout was quite was not as good as one would have wanted it. I think that's something that we need to improve on. You know, when I spoke with you the last time, I did say that INEC has a lot of work to do in this respect. And, and the political parties across board also have a lot of work to do. You see, there needs to be collaborative effort to encourage people, to get people across to come and vote. We've got, about 2 million registered voters. I think it's not good enough that we are having such kind of numbers in terms of turnout. Bringing people to participate and get involved and, vote, it's collaborative effort. But INEC must lead on this. INEC must, and it just doesn't have to be a situation where when the elections are close by, they start to, sort of run around to encourage people. It's going to be a continuous process. People have to get the feeling that they've got to participate in this process. Everybody's got to be involved. Because this is the government. The outcome will affect their lives.
Well, so I think this boils down to voter education. Is it INEC's sole responsibility? Because in Ondo State, for instance, the spirit in reality is obvious. Look at in the 2012 governorship election, voter turnout was 38%, and this crashed to 35% 4 years later. voter turnout dropped to 36.6% in 2020. So the challenge in Ondo State was to revive voter participation because, participation in election is integral in measuring the health of a democracy. And many expected a difference. But with this figure that we have, are the people of Ondo State gradually losing interest in who governs them? Is that the case?
I don't think that. I don't think that is the case. I think it's because the electoral body and quite honestly the political class, we seem not to be doing enough in terms of getting people to come and vote or to participate. Like I said earlier, sort of rushing and ramping up efforts as election gets very near to get people's interest. It's not good enough. But INEC has to take the lead. It's the electoral body. Is the one charged with this responsibility of of the electoral process. It has to take the lead, and the political class across board, irrespective of which political party, there's got to be collaborative efforts to bring people, to tell people why they've got to vote, and that. I mean, the more people that vote, the better for our democracy. The more robust it is. Education is what's important. It's not a case of losing interest. It's about people understanding the priority of doing their civil duties.
So, Ondo State has a case study. What do you think may have contributed to this voter apathy, so to speak?
Yeah. It's like I said. It's because we all have to take the blame. The political class, as well as INEC, we've not done enough in educating people, in bringing people out. We need to do much more, and that process must not start when elections are near. It must be something that must start from when we finish one election cycle. That must be a continuous process to get people involved. People must feel a sense of involvement that this has significance for them and for their lives.
All right, so let's look at the figures. This just concluded election. Governor Aiyedatiwa polled a total of 366,781 votes, defeating Agbala Ajayi, who scored a total vote of 117,845. I mean, looking at the total valid votes now, which is 497,077. Rejected votes was about 11,886, while total vote cast was 508,963 out of about 2 million plus registered voters. The total vote cast is, to say the least, a disappointment. Apart from why this happened, what does this say of governance and democracy, as well as involvement of citizens in election, using Ondo State as a case study?
What it just shows is that our democracy has not matured enough. That's the thing. It's not matured enough to mature to the point where people, there's a feeling, there's a great sense of duty to get involved in the electoral process. And that's what we need to ramp up. And we need to do that, we need to start to do that very quickly. We need to make people understand, make people appreciate the fact that just, one person not voting has serious significance. Across the rural areas and the urban centers, people have to be mobilized and be told. Of course, part of the problem is that the level of education in the rural areas and perhaps in the cities might also be contributory. But the political class, like I said earlier, the political class, INEC, we've got to start a drive to get people to generate more interest in the electoral process, to widen participation. That is very, very important, and that's what's going to lead us to have bigger numbers and have a more robust outcome.
So, would you say the civil society organizations are doing any better?
I think I would say it's a low mark. We've got to be realistic with ourselves. It's a low mark across board. The INEC, the civil societies, the political parties, we need to do much more to get people's interest in the electoral process, to engender a situation where, for example, I told somebody for the election. I thought it would be good for us to have more than 50%. That would be some kind of starting point. When you have about 2 million registered voters and you have way less than 1 million, that's not impressive. And the first thing is for us to be honest enough to admit that we are falling low in this respect.
Right. So, Dr. Ilaluwo, what do you think was at stake in this election, which also determined the voting pattern?
I think importantly, what was at stake was, about governance, getting a better deal for the people, and I think those who voted, the electorate that voted, had to kind of juxtapose the major candidates and see who potentially has the capacity to be able to deliver more for our state, and that's where the incumbent governor sort of towered above all of the other candidates. Particularly, the other candidate in the PDP, he had shown his mettle. He had shown that within 10 months he had been quite impressive, and people generally felt that giving him the mandate or support, giving him their votes represents the better option, or if you like, the best option in this scenario.
But for your party, politically, what were the factors at play in this election that contributed to the victory of the APC?
For the party, I think first and foremost, the party was united. Yes, when I was involved, in the primaries for our party. There were after the primaries, there were some a few issues, but we crossed that line very quickly. There was this desire to bring everybody on board. You remember that I congratulated the governor just immediately after perhaps shortly after the primaries, and shortly after that, a group of seven aspirants also endorsed, including myself, of course, endorsed the governor, and we brought a number of other aspirants came onto the boat, and there was that effort to build consensus, and that consensus was built. The governor had the entire party united behind him. He had his performance, his record, which many thought was impressive within 10 months, and those two things were the major things: the performance and the fact that the party was very much united. And of course, I think finally at the third point, the other major party, had lost very, very significant numbers of, influential people. So the party was in a position where the other party was in a position, the major party was in a position where it was seriously depleted. So it was no surprise that the APC came up with a landslide victory.
Well, was that election really a keenly contested election, or a walk in the park for the APC?
Can you say that again?
Was that election a keenly contested election?
I wouldn't say so, because, if you were somebody who watches political barometers very, very well, you would have seen by virtue of, the massive crowd that came around to welcome the governor, in each of the local governments that they went to, you would have seen some clear indication from that. You would have seen from the big wigs that were endorsing the governor. You would have seen from the kind of for example, I mentioned earlier, all of the aspirants, for example, were basically behind the governor. You would have also seen that there were key people moving from the other parties into the APC. I mentioned when we spoke some times ago, key allies of the former governor, Governor Mimiko. Many of them moved into the APC. That came around to strengthen the party, to strengthen the hand of the party, to strengthen the governor. The aspirants' support as well. The unity of the party. Everybody was committed to ensuring that we won. And importantly, and I must say this, very importantly, the governor had delivered. Was seen as calm and somebody who was a performer. So it is no surprise. It was no surprise that that we got the result that we got. That we got.
All right, Dr. Ilaluwo, let's go on a break, and when we come back, we will continue this conversation. Please stay with me.
Central Bank of Nigeria to properly brief the Senate regarding the state of the economy.
What I will never take is threat.
Let's now bring you more development from Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, where an explosion has taken place. Tell us about this incident.
TVC News, first with breaking news.
Welcome back to Politics Tonight, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with us. Tonight, we're assessing the outcome of Ondo governorship election with Dr. Soji Eyilamwo. He's a public affairs analyst, a senior information technology consultant, and is also a manager and was one of the 16 contestants for the APC governorship ticket in April. Doctor, thank you so much. Thank you very much for staying with us on the program. Now, let's look at some of the reactions that have drilled the outcome of this election. Opposition political parties have reacted to the outcome. And for ADC, and that's the African Democratic Congress, that party has accepted the outcome of the election. I think that's good for the APC, one opposition down. Well, for the SDP and its candidates, Bamidele Adegboye, who was only able to garner 438 votes, he rejected the results of the election. He calls the election a slap on democracy. Also, the party's former presidential candidate in the 2023 election, Wale Adebayo, also calls it an auction party. The candidates raised several issues, and one of which is that agents of the SDP were chased away from many polling units across the state. And, I mean, you would agree with me that this is voter intimidation, alleged voter intimidation and harassment, and should not be tolerated. So how do you defend these allegations raised or leveled against your party?
Well, I don't see there's no proof in those allegations, so to say, because I mean I voted in Ilaje, across Ilaje, and from the reports I got from even outside Ilaje, everything went smoothly. I mean, quite sadly, you know, when elections are run and people lose in our climb, there's always a reluctance to accept the outcome of the result, to accept defeat. I mean, there are not many situations where I've seen that being the case. I mean, that's not to say that, you know, we've not had elections that are not, you know, that are falling below the par, so to say. But I think these elections, from what many people have said, is, you know, it's been largely free and fair. It's been transparent, and it's been without serious issues. So I don't think there's any.
Dr. Eyilamwo, the SDP candidate is not the only one aggrieved or who is not impressed with the outcome of that election. For instance, the PDP also called it a sham. It accuses INEC of skewing the election in favor of APC. In fact, for the SDP, the candidate says, and I quote, I'm asking that it should declare me the winner of this election because people were supposed to vote for me, but they chased all of our party agents out of the polling units, and thuggery was the act of the day. I'm considering myself as the winner of this election, and INEC should declare me the winner of this election, end quote. But does it bother you that the party is heading to court?
What I would say is that it's not just enough to make allegations. I mean, anybody can come around and say, you know, this was not right, or this was right, this was not done, and do that. But you've got to prove it. Evidence is key here. And I don't see I've talked to quite a number of people within my party and outside of my party, even some within the SDP. And many people, you know, quite a number of people agree that the election was likely, it was not, it may have not been perfect, but it was likely free and fair and a good election. So if they are saying that the election, you know, had issues, then they've got to make that proof, and that's why we have the courts for them to take that their matters. So, but from what I've seen, from what I've heard across, you know, based on quite a number of people that I've spoken to, the election has been quite, you know, free and fair, and so we have a good election here, and there's no point making allegations that cannot be substantiated.
All right, let's talk about INEC's performance for the next few minutes. Although it was just one state, which some Nigerians are calling for some kind of balance in the election timetable so that all states can vote at the same time. Still, I mean, at the moment, it is what it is. How do you think INEC fared with this election?
I'll give INEC a pass mark. I think they've done well. I'll certainly say that the performance was better than it was at Ondo. So I think they've done quite well. So, but of course, INEC is the electoral body. It can always it should set itself the objective of always exceeding expectations or doing much better at each election cycle. And in respect of the issue, what you mentioned about elections happening at the same time, that would be the best case scenario. But as it is, because of the peculiar nature of what had happened, for example, in those states, where election case went to court, and it took about 2 years before judgment was given. So that has staggered the election, so to say. So I don't see how we can change that. Perhaps there could be a way, but we need to have a conversation around that. Yes, of course, it will be better if the elections happen at the same time.
Sadly, there were some reports of voter inducement and vote buying across all political parties. Are you aware of this, and is it possible to completely sanitize our electioneering?
Well, I can only tell you of what had happened in my unit where I voted, and where I kind of had a bit of oversight of what happened in my unit and some units around it. I mean, I didn't see any of such inducements. I didn't see the election went in, people came around, they voted, and all of that. But of course, people are having such conversations, and if that were the case, as you mentioned, then of course, I mean, what should be happening? What we should be looking to doing is, and what we'll be looking to doing is to have an election that is free of any inadequacy, if you like. The election process is always improving. INEC has a duty to ensure that we get to a situation where we've got even more and more robust elections. So it's an ongoing thing, even apart from Nigeria, even elsewhere. So elections are always improving. So
but how do we continue to Doctor, how do we continue to sanitize our electoral process?
I think for me, we've got to the way to sanitize elections and not just to have the right laws in place, to have the right laws in place and ensure that those laws are enforced. You see, have laws in place, ensure that those laws are enforced. Those who are involved or may be involved in the electoral malpractices, they are brought to book, irrespective of which political party or which political leader is involved or anybody that is involved. We need to ensure that we need to send a signal that the election process is a very, very important one, and that people who desire or who seek to compromise that process face the consequences.
All right. So let's talk about Ondo states now. I mean, some of these issues, we've talked about it before now, but the reality is here. Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa has been re-elected. So being a deputy who stepped in to complete the tenure of his principal, looking at this now, based on the new law signed by former President Buhari, Governor Aiyedatiwa cannot contest for another term as governor of Ondo State. So do you think this will impact on his service and leadership to the people of Ondo State?
I don't think so. I think, everywhere, even, the Constitution allows for a 4-year term initially, not just in Nigeria, even in countries where we have copied the presidential system. So 4 years is what they have, and it's based on your performance, whatever you do that may entitle you to another 4-year term. And that's also even if you want to contest. I mean, I've seen in places where some people might contest for 4 years and might be unwilling or might be inhibited from contesting further. So my point is that yes, the governor has 4 years. It's a 4 years where he can make significant change, significant transformation to Ondo State. He's done well in the 10 months that he's been in the saddle. I think he has the capacity to be able to make a remarkable transformation. We're hoping that he will be able to do so. It will have support of people like myself.
When you say you're hoping is able to do so, have you lost confidence in his capacity to turn around?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm just kind of separating. I'm separating his 10 months. It's done 10 months, which has been quite impressive. So he's going to do another 4 years now. So which is starting. Will start from sometimes in February. So I'm hoping and I believe that he'll be able to deliver remarkably for our state. So and whatever support that is required, to do that, those of us who contested with him and aligned with him eventually would have given him all the support that he needs. But we have confidence, yes, undoubtedly, we have confidence in his ability to be able to deliver for our state, to bring that. What I'm hoping will happen, because I love Ondo State. I love Ondo State very much. What I'm hoping will happen is that he can deliver unprecedented growth and development to Ondo State within that 4 years. So
this was what the governor said after INEC announced the final results. Let me quote him verbatim. He says, now that the elections are over, it's time to rededicate ourselves to the service of our dear state. I therefore want to extend a hand of fellowship to the opposition parties and to invite you to collaborate with us in the warrior's task of building a better Ondo State for the overall good of our people. Let us put aside our differences and work together to create a brighter future for ourselves, our children, our communities. For you, how instructive are these words?
I think very instructive. I think yes, he has hit the right chord. He has made the right statements. Now the politics is over. It's time to unify the state. It's time for all of us to be on the same ship and face that same goal of bringing remarkable growth and development to Ondo State. I'm particularly pleased that he has extended his hand of fellowship to the opposition. I think as patriotic Ondo State indigenes, what we should be doing is to see a situation where he has all the support and everything the encouragement that enables him to deliver remarkably for Ondo State. But what should be paramount is how we can take Ondo State to those remarkable lives, make Ondo State a reference place for good governance, and that's what that's the inference I've drawn from his statement, and that's what I think any well-meaning Ondo State indigene or leader or anybody should align with.
Right. So I also want to agree with you that these words are quite instructive. But is he also sending these messages to some, directly or indirectly, to some aggrieved members of the APC?
I think, like I said, I think as far as I know, most of the grievances that occurred within the APC has been more or less settled. Yes, we need to continue to strengthen bonds and strengthen relationships. And that I think is what will be at play here. But importantly, is also calling on everybody in Ondo State, irrespective of political affiliation, that we need to put aside our differences, put aside the issues that each of the political party leaders may have had with themselves, and focus on what is good for Ondo State, what is important for Ondo State, to ensure that we bring growth to Ondo State, bringing better living standards for our people across Ondo. And that's what the people expect of us as political leaders, and that's what the people expect of the governor. And rightly so, is aligning with that vision, and that for me is impressive.
All right. So just like I said, the reality is here. Campaign is over, and Ondo people have given Governor Aiyedatiwa another tenure to prove that he can do it. But like every other state, Ondo State is a state crying out for development, rich in resources, oil and gas, and cash crops. But there are those who describe the state as a field of dreams for a good leader. Why do you think many still consider Ondo State as an underdeveloped state?
Well, I think essentially what I do think is that the state we've not done very badly as a state. I mean, I know during the time of our late governor, Akeredolu, I mean, we had an IGR that increased to about 32 billion rather, within for a year. You know, it built the IGR from about 600 million when it took over to that significant amount, and things are growing. So you know, investors are coming into the state, but of course, this governor has the opportunity and the possibility to be able to even lift the state further, make it you know, an investment-friendly state, bringing investments into the state. So those who say that, you know, the state is underdeveloped, I don't completely agree with them, because Ondo has done much better than quite a number of states. Yes, we can continue to aspire to be like a state like Lagos State, which is doing very, very well in terms of IGR, in terms of infrastructure development and all of that kind of stuff. And that's why we've elected Governor Ayedatiwa to kind of up the game and make the state, you know, compare with, you know, a few of the.
But Dr. Ilamwo, as an indigene of the state, there's a number of abandoned projects in that state to bother you. Like I said, we've talked about some of these projects in our last conversation, especially the Ofara mini port that is meant to boost commercial activities in the locality, and also the channelization of the Ofara coastal line, where the mini port is located, to unlock the full potential of the coastal resources. These are not being exploited. Do these abandonments of this project bother you at all?
I mean, like I said, when we had our last conversation, the governor's just been there for 10 months. Yeah, there's and it's achieved quite a lot within those 10 months. I'm sure that some of these other abandoned projects that you mentioned are things that he's going to look at in a 4-year term that he has been given by the people of Ondo State. So I think we should be positive and hopeful and kind of trust the governor that is going to look at all of these projects and try to take some of these projects and try to take them forward. And let's be clear, it's not just Ondo State that you have this abandoned project issue. It's something that is that's an issue across the country. Yeah, but in the case of Ondo State, I'm sure that the governor will prioritize looking at some of these projects that you mentioned with the hope that with the aim rather to for them to achieve the potential that's intended.
So you're from the Riverine area, I guess. So how do you advise the governor to address the climate issue in Ayetoro town? I'm sure you're aware that that town is still being submerged by the Atlantic, and residents of the community cannot continue to lose their source of livelihood. I think
the governor has said that.
So my first question is, why has it been so hard to fix?
Well, I think the governor has committed himself to trying to fix that problem. He said he's going to bring in collaboration with the federal government, he's going to try to deal with the issue. I'm pained, just like the governor, by the fact that people have been displaced from their homes. But I think that it's committed to solving the problem. But it requires, you know, a collaborative effort from the state government and the federal government, if you like. And I think that a lot of knowledge can be tapped from Lagos State. You know, where, you know, the issue of I remember the issue of the Victorian and Babbage issue was how it was solved. So I think the government will tap on all the expertise and all the ideas and that is required to solve that problem. I have no doubt about that.
All right, because I mean, another challenge, I'm going to continue to talk about some of these issues, because according to research, there's also the deepest point of the Atlantic in Nigeria is in Araromi, in Ondo State as well. And I know that the Nigerian Shippers Council had appealed to the governor to fast-track work on the deep sea port. But the APC is back in power. Will the dream of having a deep sea port in Ondo State become a reality? Because the governor's opponents will continue or have continued to accuse the governor of abandoning that project.
I think the opponents who accuse the governor of abandoning abandoning the project basically missed the point, really, because don't forget that it was his predecessor, Governor Akeredolu, that even gave some kind of ray of light to this deep sea project. He was the one who got the approval from the federal government. We were all excited when he did so. Before then, by previous governments, by the government preceding Akeredolu, nothing was done about that. So you have to give credit to the government of to the APC government led by Akeredolu, of which this governor was a part, in ensuring, in raising the hopes of the people about this deep sea project. So, having done that, Akeredolu has put that deep sea thing on the front burner. I'm sure that, and this governor was part of that exercise. I'm sure that he'll be very proud to continue the project. Particularly, he comes from that area as well, and he knows more than quite a number of people how beneficial that project would be for the area, for the economic landscape of the South, and for the entire state indeed. So I'm sure that it will seek ways to progress that project.
I mean, I'm asking you these questions because you were an aspirant, and ultimately, what would you have done if you were the one who got re-elected? But let's talk about health, because Ondo State ranked third on under 5 death chart, and there is a high rate of infant mortality in Akoko South. I'm not sure you're aware of that. What do you think are the factors responsible for this?
I think it's about one is perhaps not inadequate awareness about some of the things that are preventive about all the preventive measures that people can take in terms of taking care of the infants, of taking care of the children. That is something that that's obviously a key point. I think what needs to happen is to raise the level of awareness about all of the issues around infant mortality and all of that, and of course begin to build the necessary infrastructures. And the government has started. I mean, I'm aware. When I spoke with you the last time. I talked to you about his plan to build, health centers across the entire state. It's taking proactive steps in building infrastructure, necessary infrastructure to reduce, if you like, this kind of this issue that you mentioned. And of course, I'm sure that the awareness issue will be given also some measure of priority as well, increasing that awareness of preventive measures around those issues that you mentioned.
Dr. Ilawo, do you have a relationship with the governor?
Well, yes, I do have a relationship with the governor. I have a cordial relationship with the governor. He's apart from being a fellow contestant, is a brother from we both come from Ilaje. Yes, I do.
So what must the incoming administration do to shape Ondo State's educational system? This is your field, and ensure that every child has access to quality education.
Well, I think what is important is for us to, we've got to continue to enhance, if you like, the necessary infrastructure around schools. I mean, I mentioned in one of my interviews with you that we need to have access to schools across the nooks and crannies of the state. I did mention that from where I stand, I don't think what is particularly important is, well, we could have that, but what's more important is having schools across the entire state where people have easy access to education. We can't have a situation where people have to go several distance to be able to get to get access to education, have access to schools. And I think this government is building new schools. It's building new schools, repairing the infrastructure of old schools as well. That needs to continue. And we need to also have laws in place to ensure that we need to get all the children, school-age children, everybody to be in school. We can't have a situation where kids who are supposed to be in schools are not in schools. That is totally unacceptable. So if we have laws in place, we need to enforce those laws so that we have everybody who's of school age in school learning and with appropriate support available.
Right. So, I mean, now that TVC is back in power, what's your message for the people of Ondo State?
Yeah, my message for the people of Ondo State is that we trust that the APC government would address all of the problems. The problems, the issues, all of the problems that were made. We'll seek to fulfill those promises. We intend to bring to Ondo State the benefits of the dividends of democracy, bring in growth and development to our state, ensure a better living standard for our people. We ask for the understanding of our people, support from our people for the government in navigating through this journey.
All right. I mean, from us here, all we can say is wish the governor well and the APC in the next 4 years. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Dr. Soji Ilan, who is a public affairs analyst, senior information technology consultant and manager, and was also one of the 16 contestants for the APC governorship ticket in April. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at midnight. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke WO using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Good night, everyone.